proving yourself. For the next few days Team 7 and Haku went through the usual process of preparing their gear and equipment while on the training grounds. It hadn't taken the ice user long to become accustomed to this new method of training. Zabuza had often left him on his own so that he could perfect his skills while he went scouting for other jobs for the pair of them. With Haku doing training with them, they were also able to continue working on their nerve cluster style of taijutsu. It also helped the ice user to hide away from people. It seemed that the various girls throughout the village that were interested in Sasuke had divided themselves, and now half of them were still following Sasuke, while the other half though had taken to following Haku around. A few of the undecided though had decided that Peter deserved his own group as well and had taken to following him around as well. Haku had become rather adept at having to slip by unnoticed, and had started wearing his mask more and more as all of the girls seemed to be able to sense when he was about to remove the garment from his face and show up. While Peter's spider sense allowed him to know when he was being followed and was able to sidestep his followers. These abilities just seemed to spur the girls on even more to learn about the pair of boys. Kakashi was his usual late self, and the man seemed happy to see them as he gave them their missions. "Hey guys!" he greeted with a cheery wave. "Sensei," the group greeted the Jonin with annoyance. Kakashi sighed in disappointment. They were finally learning some self-control, it seemed. While he was glad of that, he was also somewhat saddened as well. The reactions of his two students had always been one of the best parts for showing up late for the Jonin. Haku was his stoic self, while Peter was more likely to make up some joke about his lateness than he was to be annoyed. "Well guys, I have some more D-rank missions for us," he said, as he held up some paper slips filled with their mission orders. "Oh come on sensei, we showed we can take care of ourselves," Naruto complained at the man. "Why do we need to go back to doing the lame stuff?" "That's true Naruto, but there is usually a waiting period after your first A-class mission," Kakashi explained to the group. "You were actually rather lucky that our team was assigned as Haku's escort before his fight. Missions like that are usually regulated to an Anbu team. It was only because it was thought our connection with Haku would make him more agreeable was the only reason we were assigned as we were. For the time being, we have to deal with D-rank missions or no missions at all. It is meant as a time of recovery to make sure there are no serious injuries. Besides, you really don't want to be one of those ninja that is constantly being sent out of the village with a new mission. Trust me, it's nowhere near as exciting as it sounds," he warned the blonde in a knowing voice. "It also allows us to work with Haku for a while, so that he can become more familiar with the way things work in Konoha. Besides, that gives us more time to focus on some of your selective training," he pointed out to the trio. The group nodded reluctantly at that. Kakashi had taken to spending a bit of time with each of his students and seeing what they were learning in their independent studies. Sakura was currently trying her hand at various things at the moment, trying to find something she was good at. Haku was actually rather helpful in that, as he was teaching her better chakra control and weapons, seeing as she was already ahead of the others in her control. Peter was spending his time training with sharpening his other senses, while Naruto was working on his taijutsu style to change it into a more refined form of martial arts that wouldn't be so easy to counter. "Hey Naruto, you never know, we might get a chance to try the nerve pinch attacks on that cat," Peter said with a grin. At this all four teens perked up and nodded their heads appreciably at the thought of taking the cat out with a nerve pinch. Haku had been most annoyed when he had gone after the cat the other day as a solo mission. His superior speed made finding the cat easy, but even he was wary of getting his hands on the furry pest with its razor-sharp claws. Despite his superior speed, he had been clawed more than a few times by the furred menace. Peter shook his head at that. "In some ways that cat reminds me of this girl named Felicia. She's quick with a getaway, and even quicker to use her claws," he joked. The image of a white-haired figure leaping off a building came to mind. He tried to focus on the image but it soon faded. "Damn it. Peter said, slamming his fist into a nearby pole. "It's all right, Peter, it will come to you someday," Sakura assured him, lightly touching his shoulder in comfort. "Right, Sensei?" she questioned, looking over at the silver-haired man who was silently watching over them. "Yes, just try not to force it," Kakashi reassured the boy, as he added another name to the list that Peter gave him. He personally thought that the description of Tora was actually a rather interesting one, though. Whoever this Felicia was, he hoped that they never met Anko. The boy nodded his head before turning to look at the Jonin. "Okay, Mr. Magi, what chores do you have for us today?" Peter questioned curiously as he looked at the man. Kakashi smiled beneath his mask, another name for him to look up. One of these days they would find something to help them figure out what they all meant. "Well, we have to help someone with preparing their herb garden," the ninja explained. "Our job is to weed the garden. There are also several other missions to do as well." "Hi, Sensei," the group said as they took off after the man to begin their work. The group weeded the gardens, walked dogs, cleaned the river, but as soon as they were done, something seemed to distract the Jonin and he dismissed the group while he headed off with a crack of smoke. "What do you think has him so distracted?" Sakura questioned curiously, while the other two looked at her blankly. "Well, you did notice that something seemed to catch his attention, and then he seemed to tell us we were done for the day," she added. "I mean, he didn't even take us in for our pay." "Who knows," Peter said with a shrug. "The day I start understanding Kakashi-sensei's mind is the day I check into a mental hospital, though." The others all laughed at this, even as they gave agreeing nods. "Come on, Naruto, and I owe you another lunch as I recall," he said. Sakura smiled at that. She had yet to agree to ramen, much to Naruto's disbelief and agony. The girl took them to salad places, the dango stand, the sushi restaurant, or the barbecue joint, but never the ramen stand. The girl seemed to take some perverse pleasure out of not eating there and denying Naruto the opportunity to have lunch there as well. A few glares from people were always accompanied, but with three other ninja there they couldn't very well turn them away. Naruto, having made ninja, had been a blow against a lot of the oppression that the blonde had lived with, since there were certain laws that prevented them from denying a ninja service into their place of business. While the civilians obviously didn't like it, there was really very little that they could do, since it was one of the first laws set up by the first Hokage and no one wanted to be the one to break any of the original laws. While they ate, they talked about a range of things. Lately Sakura and Haku had been trying to come up with a jutsu that would make use of their long hair. Ever since her conversation with Sasuke, the girl had been somewhat out of it and had been trying to prove to the rest of her team that she wasn't as useless as Sasuke had seemed to think she was. This had given to her talking extensively with Haku, who was a skilled chakra and basic medical user. The combination made him extremely dangerous. As the group was taking a shortcut through an alley, they noticed that they were being followed by a square-shaped truck with two holes in front. "Man, and I thought some of your old disguises were bad," Sakura mocked as she looked at the box. "I mean, at least the two of you always made sure your rocks were round," the girl said with a superior sniff as she eyed the weak disguise behind them. "So, do you guys want to come on out of the really crappy disguise already, or are you going to make me come and take it off?" Naruto demanded, as he shouted down at the box. "Because no one is buying what you're playing at one bit." The box was silent for a moment under the barrage of demands Naruto was making before a muffled voice began speaking. "You saw through my disguise again, boss. Just what I'd expect from greatest rival." Peter felt his spider sense slightly ping. "Scatter," he commanded. A moment before there was a large explosion from the box. Team 7 and Haku leapt away from the box, each of them gripping a weapon ready to attack or defend themselves as the need came. Peter and Haku were each balanced on the edge of the fences that bordered the alley, while Sakura and Naruto were prepared to take on the threat head-on. Naruto was in front of Sakura, slight, ready to take a shot for her if need be. The strategy boxed most basic attacks in and made use of each of the four genins' particular skill set. "I think we used too much gunpowder," a young voice said, and the four genin saw three academy-aged kids that were standing where the box had been moments before. A red-headed girl with twin ponytails and a red dress, a brown-haired boy with glasses, runny nose, and a blue shirt, and finally in the front there was a boy with wild brown hair, a yellow shirt with a leaf symbol on it, and a large blue scarf that trailed behind him like a cape. Each of the three kids also wore a pair of goggles over their heads similar to the ones Naruto used to wear before he had earned his ninja headband. Team 7 watched in shock as the Konohamaru ninja squad stood before them. Mgi, Udon, and Konohamaru looked expectantly at Team 7. For some reason the group of trainees had decided that Naruto was the best person around. Konohamaru had met Naruto in one of his failed attempts to kill the Hokage and take his place. The blonde had taken the scarf-wearing boy under his wing and taught him a few of his personal henge techniques along with a challenge for the two to both become Hokage when they were older. The boy was also useful in pulling pranks since no one wanted to actually complain about the boy, and it gave them a lot of leeway if they were ever caught. "So boss, are you busy?" Konohamaru questioned eagerly, as the genin sheathed their weapons and returned to their original positions. "Yeah, are you?" Mgi repeated happily. "I have to train, believe it." A cocky Naruto returned to the group of trainees. "What? But you promised that you would play ninja with us when you got back from your mission." A disappointed Konohamaru reminded the blonde. "It's been nearly a week since you got back though." Naruto swallowed as he looked to his teammates for an excuse to get out of this. Sakura gave the blonde a look of disbelief. "A ninja playing ninja? That is just so twisted," the girl said while fixing Naruto with a strange look. "Not really," Peter said with a knowing smile. "We can practice our ninja skills, while helping them learn theirs at the same time," the masked boy explained to the girl. "Don't you remember when Iuka-sensei would play escape and evade with us, or let get in some extra range time during recess?" The girl smiled a bit at the half-forgotten memories of their early academy days. "Yeah, those always were fun," the girl admitted, recalling how those were the times that Iuka would put away his grade books and let them train without the pressure of scoring at a high enough level. It was during these unofficial trainings that Naruto and Peter usually were on near even keel with some of the others. "Yeah, come on boss, your partner knows what it means to play with us," Konohamaru said eagerly. The three trainees gave the genin pleading looks. "Besides, we don't need her around to do anything. Unless of course you want your girlfriend around, that is." Peter shook his head as he stepped away from the group, not wanting to get hit in the coming chaos that the third's grandson was unwittingly creating. "What?" Sakura said angrily. "What did that little runt just call me?" "Oh, you think she likes me?" Naruto questioned with a dopey grin, while oblivious to the danger he was in. "How about I show you how much I like you like that?" Sakura said, as she cracked her knuckles in a menacing way that made the two boys freeze in fear. The girl was probably feeling annoyed at her teammates for being able to find some things that they were good at, while other than chakra control the girl had yet to find anything that she could do. And while being able to control the precise amount of chakra was a useful skill, it lacked the power that her teammates commanded. "Fine, you want to play escape and evade, we'll play," Sakura said with a scary evil grin on her face. Peter shook his head as he saw the bushes rustle and saw the familiar white clay face of one of the Anbu. It seemed that his teammate was oblivious to the fact that she was lucky that she had not attacked or seriously tried to harm the mouthy trainee. He really doubted that she wanted to spend a week or so in prison, that such an action might have gotten her. Said trainee wasn't finished though as he began yelling at her. "What kind of girlfriend are you anyways, you ugly old hag? Did you see how white her forehead is, boss?" the boy asked loudly. Peter groaned, and was pretty sure that he heard it echoed by the Anbu on guard that were watching over the boy. "Run!" Naruto ordered, urging the small boy ahead of him as he tried to get between Sakura and the kid despite everyone knowing he wouldn't ever strike at the pink-haired girl. "You said you wanted to play, well here's the game." Stay ahead of Sakura and don't let her beat you up. The blonde explained to the brunette as he pushed him to go faster while the pink-haired girl tried to close the gap between them. Come on, Peter told the other two brats. Something tells me they're going to need us to pull her off of them. Peter chuckled a bit. Even when it wasn't their fault, they somehow ended up either being the targets or in the very middle of all of the excitement of the village. He only hoped Sakura remembered that it was a training exercise before she did something really stupid. That was spilled out of his mind though, as they turned the corner after the group and saw that Konoha was being held by the front of his shirt by a large boy in a black bodysuit and purple face paint with some sort of harness that was holding an object as tall as the boy was in wrapped bandages. At the guy's side was a blonde girl in a white and purple battle dress with a large black item strapped to her back. Each of them appeared to be genin, but they were wearing headbands that were not Konoha headbands. On closer inspection they had hourglass image of Suna, the village hidden in the sand etched into them. So does this hurt, punk? The boy questioned, as he shook the boy like a rag doll. Konoha, a worried Naruto said as he looked at the young boy he had taken under his wing. Put him down, Kankuro. The girl told her companion in an impatient tone, or you'll know that you'll pay for it later. She said ominously. Ah, come on, we have a few minutes for fun, the boy said sinisterly. Let me play with these leaf twerp losers. Saying this he raised his fist in anticipation of hitting the boy. I wouldn't do that, putty cat, unless you want to find yourself with a couple of Anbu swords at your throat, that is. Peter warned him. There are rules that ninja visiting other villages have to obey, and I'm pretty sure assaulting the Hokage's grandson is breaking a number of those rules. Maybe, but it might just be worth it to prove how inept you leaf ninja really are. The boy in dark clothes shot back, his eyes narrowing at the insult thrown at him. And these are a traditional uniform for my kind of ninja. The boy shot back in annoyance. Kankuro, the girl said warningly. Put him down, Naruto shouted, as he charged at Kankuro. The boy smirked as he did something with his other hand and Naruto tripped. The boy wobbled a bit but managed to land on his hands like Peter often did and flipped back to his feet. As he came back up he held a kunai in his hand. Well, so much for a nice calm and relaxing afternoon, Peter said as he moved into position to deal with the girl in case she tried anything in the defense of her companion. The indifferent look she sent him and the lack of a flare from his spider sense told him how much of a threat the girl viewed him as. He wasn't sure if he should be insulted or relieved about that though. Why don't you tell your putty cat dressing partner to put the kid down before this gets violent? He pleaded with the girl. The girl's eyes lit up in amusement at the comparison. You know, I really hate annoying mouthy weaklings like you guys, Kankuro said as he raised his fist over Konoha. Besides, if this kid is so great and his old man is so great, then he should be able to take care of himself without you guys interfering. Instead you're all just annoying brats. Let me show you what happens to people I find annoying. Put him down, Naruto said darkly. I won't tell you again. Do you have any idea who we are? Kankuro questioned. This little big-mouthed brat might be the grandson of the Hokage, but we're the children of the Kazekage. Ah, great, a royal match-up, Peter said mockingly as he looked at the arrogant boy who didn't seem the least bit scared at facing off with a group that had them so outnumbered. Peter then took on an announcer-like voice. In a battle between the heirs to two of the more powerful ninja in the lands, who is more powerful, which will outcage the other? Considering you said we, I can only assume that means you're related to the putty cat? He said, turning to look at the girl curiously. I see you at least have a semblance of a brain, the girl said with a stiff nod. The four genin looked between the son and grandson of two different cages. This matter had gotten even worse than it had been before. If the Anbu attacked either of the Suna kids, it could be considered a declaration of war for assaulting the child of a cage. On the other hand, a foreign ninja assaulting the grandson of the Hokage wasn't something that they could allow to happen either. This whole mess was just becoming more and more of a complicated headache the longer it drew out. The only way they could save face now was if the genin dealt with it on their own. Naruto, put up your kunai. We can't allow this turn into a weapons brawl unless they slice first, Sakura said as she began thinking on what the repercussions could be to them if they allowed their emotions to make them do something stupid. We have to keep this to low-level taijutsu. Their being related to a cage changes the rules on us. I don't care who they are, they're still going down if they hurt Konohamaru. Naruto returned to the girl. She's not saying you can't kick his ass, she's just saying that she doesn't want you to use weapons unless they do. Peter returned to his friend, getting an agreeing nod from the girl. Fine, Naruto said grudgingly as he sheathed the blade. Let's get wild now, the boy said. Oh, shut up already, you little punk, Kankuro said while glaring at the blonde. First I'm going to put this brat in the ground, then I'm going to pound each and every one of you into paste. If you think you can do it, putty cat, Peter returned as he prepared himself. Fine, do what you want, but I'm staying out of it, the girl said, waving all of them off with disgust. Not like it's really going to matter, Kankuro said with a smirk as he pulled his fist back. First I'll deal with this little runt and then I'll deal with the mouthy genin as well, he said, showing a malicious smile. That does it, Naruto said as he charged forward. The orange-wearing ninja came in at the boy and punches at him. The boy grunted a bit, but other than that showed little to no reaction to the blow. That it? Kankuro questioned Naruto with a smirk. Is that really all you got in you? After all that talk I thought that you could do more than just that, he said as he turned to look the blonde over with contempt. Maybe I should show you what a real punch-in like. Before he could do anything though, a thin layer of ice formed around him, freezing the boy in place. That is quite enough out of you, the masked Haku said, as he stopped the boy from continuing on with instigating the fight. Konohamaru finally broke free from the grip of the much older and larger boy and rushed to the safety of his friends who were nervously watching from behind the genin. Kankuro growled and shifted, shattering the layer of ice that had imprisoned him. You want to come over here and try that again, pretty boy? He challenged. You think because you have one or two decent moves that you're actually worth something? The boy reached over and pulled the strap holding the object on his back. This action seemed to worry the girl more than anything else that had happened. What, are you really going to use that for something as simple as this? The indifferent tone that she had held the entire time now gone worried the four-leaf genin more than anything the other boy had done so far. Kankuro, a dark raspy voice said, back off. Everyone froze at the voice and turned to look up in a nearby tree where a boy was standing on an overhanging tree branch with Crossed watching all of them. Everyone turned to look to see a pale-skinned boy with dark red hair, pale green eyes, covered in dark circles. He was dressed in brown with a white sash over one shoulder and a leather strap over the other. The leather strap had a Sand Village headband sewn on and held a giant gourd onto his back. You're an embarrassment to our village, the boy continued, in his raspy voice. Have you forgotten the reason why we came here in the first place? He demanded of the other boy. Hey Gaara, Kankuro said, in a now worried voice. The confidence he had seeming to have disappeared, as quickly and suddenly as the appearance of the redhead. They started it, Kankuro said, pointing toward Naruto eagerly. He attacked me, he said, trying to make himself out to be the victim. Shut up, I don't want to hear any of you excuses. Gaara continued, snapped out at the boy. Or I will kill you. Peter swallowed as he realized that this was a real threat and not just something said to make his companion to behave. Really not something he wanted to deal with. Gaara had already dismissed the stuttering Kankuro who was rushing out apologies to his companion. The redhead turned to look each of the leaf genin over. I apologize for my brother's foolishness and any troubles he might have caused. The boy regarded each of them for a moment before his body seemed to disappear into a pile of sand that fell to the ground and reformed into the redhead. Peter shook his head. That was so familiar, and he saw the image of another redhead with a green shirt, only much older than this guy whose entire body seemed to be made of sand. There was something off about this guy. When he had looked at Peter, his spider sense had screamed at him, and he got that same feeling he did whenever Naruto used the fox's power to increase his abilities. Only this was much more focused and controlled. He didn't know what exactly it was that this Gaara kid was, but he was strong and dangerous. "Let's go," Gaara said, his back turned to the Leaf Ninja, dismissing them as unimportant. "We didn't come here to play games." The two nodded their head in agreement, and fell into step behind the redhead as he strode past them. "Hold it," Sakura said. "What are Sand Ninja doing here anyways?" "Yeah, she's right," Peter said in agreement. "Last Sand Ninja that we met was busy trying to kill us, so I think you can understand our worry." "Really, and who did you meet?" the girl asked curiously. "We met Shohayato not too long ago out in the Land of Waves with some other ninja," Sakura supplied to the group. "The sure shot ninja?" Kankura questioned them with slight interest. "I thought that he was supposed to be dead." "Did you kill him?" Gaara questioned, ignoring the questions of the others. "He wasn't really worth the effort of killing," Sakura returned nervously, as she realized that she was now under the scrutiny of the redhead. "He really wasn't all that good at his taijutsu though. Last we saw him he was running away." "I see," Gaara said. "You should have killed him," the boy said as he turned away and began to leave with his companions falling in behind him. "Hold up just a minute," Sakura said, going to the front of the group. "The Land of Fire and Wind are allies, but what is your purpose here?" The girl smirked superiorly at the group. "Really? Where have you guys been hiding under a rock? You guys don't know what's going on, do you?" "Sorry, we were a bit busy in the Land of Waves." Peter shot at her. "It's kind of hard to get the latest gossip when we're over the duking it out with the Demon Brothers and whatnot. So how about you tell us what's going on?" "The Demon Brothers, you guys?" Kankuro asked dubiously. "Yes. Despite their outward appearance they are all actually quite strong and skilled," Haku said. "Well, if you say so, cutie," the blonde said, flashing a flirtatious smile at the blue-masked ninja. "I do believe we've just been insulted," Peter said with an amused tone. "Who are you guys exactly anyways?" Naruto demanded of the group, getting tired of the runaround that they were getting. The redhead paused as he seemed to consider this. "I am Gaara of the desert. This is my brother Kankuro and our sister Temari. If you get in our way we will crush you." "Now who are you?" he questioned while looking at the ninja in blue. "I am Haku." "Bet you want to know who I am as well," Naruto said. "I don't care," Gaara returned. "And why are you in the village?" Sakura pressed. "We're here for the Chunin exams," Temari told them. "So we have permission to be here," she said, flashing her ninja ID and passport at the Konoha group. "Get the picture?" "All ready?" a surprised Naruto asked. "You remember what the Chunin exams are?" a surprised Sakura questioned. "Yeah, it's the tests to become Chunin, the next level of ninja and the next step to becoming Hokage." "Believe it," Naruto said. "Maybe you have a brain in there after all," Temari said snidely. "Let's go," Gaara said curtly, and the other two followed after him. "You guys enjoying the show?" Peter asked, not bothering to turn around to face the other group that was watching them. "I'm impressed you noticed us," a muffled voice said as three new figures with unfamiliar headbands on appeared. One was a man in a tan coat with spiky hair. The other was a dark-haired girl with a body-hugging green shirt. The final member wore a heavy fur jacket and had his entire head wrapped in bandages except for his left eye. All of them were wearing camouflage pants. "You are not nearly as good as you believe," Haku's voice said from behind them. The ninja gasped and spun even as the ice clone next to Team 7 grumbled. "Perhaps you should be more careful just who it is that you try sneaking up on," Haku advised them. Impressive, the bandaged ninja admitted. I might not be so easily impressed next time though. Besides, none of you are our main concerns. None of you are worth our time. The unknown ninja then leapt away. Makes you wonder just who they were worried about, Segura said, getting nods of agreement from the others. Team 7 were a bit uncomfortable as they found themselves back at their training grounds the next day. As they waited, they nervously played around with their gear. The information that they had gotten from the Sand Ninja had given them all a lot to think about. On the one hand, they were a fairly junior team of ninja, on the other they had managed to succeed with an A-class mission. It came down to how much Kakashi had decided that they had grown and if they were good enough to try and move up. As Chunin, there was a chance that their training squad could be broken up. Considering they were still somewhat new to the whole thing, they were unsure how they felt about that though, since they had begun to truly accept each other for who and what they were. The idea that they might soon be broken up if they were strong enough was actually somewhat scary for them, and they hoped that they would be able to move forward. Kakashi puffed into view of the rather calm, serious and somewhat introspective group of ninja. I take you all have heard then? He questioned them as he looked them over. Of the entire group, only Haku appeared unconcerned, and that was because of the deal that had been made. He knew that they were all thinking about being broken up. Ideally they would have reassigned a team if that was the case. Thanks to the Fox attack from 10 years ago though, they simply didn't have the resources for that. What would likely happen would be if one of his squad became Chunin, they would take the second-in-command post. Although personally, he wouldn't mind if more than one member of his team made the cut. The bragging rights of having two Chunin come out of the same team so soon after the academy would be most enjoyable. Particularly when it came to dealing with Guy and his insane challenges. He just knew that sooner or later that their students would somehow get dragged into their contests, and if he had one up on the man already, it would be fun. The Jonin ignored those thoughts though as he began. Good, you're all here, Kakashi said as he jumped down and landed on the bridge railing. I've nominated the 3 of you for the Chunin exam, the Jonin said as he drew 3 forms out and handed them out to the trio. If you wish to take the exam, be at the academy in 5 days' time, room 301, at 3. You don't have to do this, but I will give you the opportunity to do so. The choice is yours though. I want each and every one of you to think long and hard about this. The Chunin exam is not something that you can take lightly. He told them ominously. We won't meet again as a team until after the exams. Thanks for this chance to prove ourselves, Sensei, Peter said as he bowed low to the man. I did nothing here, Kakashi returned to the boy. Each of you earned the right of competing with the advancements that you have made. Thank you, Sensei. Team 7 returned. Or cut it out, guys. You're going to make me blush, Kakashi complained cheerfully. Each of the genin then took their parchments and walked off to think about what it was that they were going to be facing. Hokage Tower. The third Hokage looked over at the list of candidates that had been selected for this year's tests. The most interesting on the list were those that were considered the younger generation. Toru Nabaram was placing this year's Rookie of the Year Sasuke Uchiha, and the orphans known as Sei and Hyo in the exam. Along with them from that age group were Guy's genin students, which consisted of Rock Lee, Tenten, and last year's Rookie of the Year Neji Hyuga, the prodigy child from the Hyuga clan. None of the other genin from that year group were being given the chance to compete though. The surprising thing had been that all of the other rookies from this year had also been nominated. Kakashi had nominated Team 7, which consisted of Peter Parker Abaram, Sakura Haruno, and Naruto Uzumaki. Kurenai of Team 8 had nominated Shino Abaram, Hinata Hyuga, and Kiba Inuzuka. Asuma of Team 10 had completed the group by nominating Choji Akimaki, Shikamaru Nara, and Inuya Manuka. He knew all of their files, and knew that each and every one of them had a more than fair chance of being promoted or at the very least gaining some very much needed experience and recognition that they might be lacking in. It was still a surprise since it had been 5 years since Rookie Genin team had been nominated to compete. Not even Itachi Uchiha, argued to be one of the most skilled ninja to come out of the leaf, had managed to climb that fast, and he had become a chunin at the age of 10. Only Kakashi had ever moved through the ranks so fast. He doubted either of them would have been permitted to rise so quickly had they not been in wartime conditions, though. Of course that merely made the rise of these particular genin all the more impressive. Iuka had of course voiced his objections over allowing such raw and untrained ninja participate in such a dangerous series of tests. The chunin had actually lost his cool and yelled at Kakashi. The jonin had remained calm in the heat of the chunin's plea to keep his former students safe. As a compromise, he had permitted the chunin to personally test the various members of the Rookie 9 to ensure that their teachers were not overestimating the abilities of the students. The 3 jonin had agreed without hesitation, as they had little doubt that the genin would all pass the tests. The Hokage was currently watching as the chunin tried himself against the various ninja that he had once taught. Iuka had become surprisingly attached to this particular group of ninja. He probably had Naruto to blame for that particular problem. The chunin instructor through Naruto had become much closer to this year's genin. Disguised as a ninja from another village, he engaged each of them in a dangerous situation and tested each of them and assessed their skills. The Rookie 9 had performed above and beyond what the chunin had expected from them, and he had been forced to accept how much each of his students had grown as ninja. Naruto, Sasuke, Peter, Kiba, and Choji were easily the heavy hitters of the year. Shikamaru, Shino, Sakura, Hinata, and Ino lacked the raw power of their teammates, but made up for it with their analytical minds or surprise attacks. Even if it was only these ninja competing, the exams would be interesting. Peter looked up from his perch on the side of a building as several kunai suddenly came raining down on him. He leapt away as several blades embedded themselves deep into the wall. He looked up to see a ninja wearing a straw hat and wearing a robe. A ninja headband was visible underneath the hat. Through the ninja was masked. "I take it this is where you try and scare me away from the exams?" Peter questioned the ninja, as he readied himself for another attack. "If you cannot see reason, then you will need to be taken out," the ninja said, leaping into the air and throwing various weapons at the masked ninja. "The chunin exams are not for the weak-willed." Peter smirked as he weaved through the blades as easily as if he were intangible. The ones that would hit him were deflected off of his braces. "It's going to take more than that, big guy," he assured the figure as he launched himself at the figure. "Are you really ready to start a war, by the way?" he questioned curiously, as he brought his fist into contact with his attacker. There was a poof and a log replaced the ninja. Peter's fist continued onward, though tearing through the log and shattering it. He landed and looked forward. "You keep this up, that is going to be you," he assured the figure behind him. "We shall see, boy," the ninja said as he charged at him. Peter sidestepped to the attack and swung, but the ninja was already out of his range. "So is there a reason to this lunacy, or are you just doing it for giggles?" Peter asked, as he drew his blades. "With fewer participants, the greater the chance for the people of my village to have chunin, and for them to have the best showing when the lords of the lands decide to show themselves," the ninja said as he threw more weapons toward the boy. "I am simply thinning the herd now before you get yourself into more trouble than you can deal with." "Geez, you're just all heart there, aren't you?" the boy mocked at the ninja before him. "You're really not the best when it comes to aim, are you?" Peter asked as he saw that all of the blades had gone wide. "When you're not my target, it doesn't matter," the ninja returned as he drew a kunai with a tag on in and drove it into the ground. 4 other kunai that were stuck in the ground glowed as their tags became apparent, and a pentagram appeared in the outline. "Falling Star Jutsu," the ninja called out. Each of the tags let out a powerful explosion that covered the entire area. All that was left was a field of smoke and broken weapons. "Perhaps you were not as ready as you believed yourself to be," the ninja said mockingly. Maybe, maybe not," Peter's voice said. as a ripping sound came in and Peter tore through a dome of webbing that had protected him from the explosions. "I hardly think that you're one to make that choice though, pal," he said as he shot a line of webbing at the surprised ninja and caught him in his grasp. He then began swinging the ninja around. "I'll see you at the exams, pal," he said as he released his hold and watched the ninja disappear out of sight. Had Peter followed the ninja, he would have noticed that the ninja landed easily on his feet, and then disappeared only to reappear alongside of the book reading Kakashi Hatake. "Well?" Kakashi asked the figure. The hedge dropped and the form of Iuka Namino now stood before the Jonin. "Your team has all grown exceptionally well," Iuka grudgingly admitted to the man. "They may very well be ready to take the exam if they do as well as they did tonight." "I told you that they were ready," Kakashi stated to the man. "Whether you knew it or not, you trained a generation of prodigies. We need to let them grow though, and see just what they can be." Iuka nodded grudgingly, not liking what he was hearing, but accepting it all the same. "Maybe they are more like you than I thought," he admitted to the Jonin. "They are also their own people though," Kakashi returned to him. "Which team will you test tomorrow?" "Asuma's team tomorrow, and then Kurenai's team just in case Shino gets in a good shot with his bugs. Your team was the most randomly charged group that I was curious as to how they would turn out." "That and you have taken a personal interest in the development of Naruto and Sakura," Kakashi added in. "I doubt that Sakura knows as much as she did without becoming one of your favorites and getting excess study materials from you." Iuka blushed at the light scolding. "Just remember, you can be their friend, you can be their mentor, but you are not their sensei anymore," Kakashi told the ninja in a clip-no-nonsense tone. "You have not stood by and watched them bleed and sweat during training. That has been what I and the other Jonin have been doing. They are our students now, not yours. It's time you started to accept that fact." "Very well, Kakashi," the chastised Chunin said as he bowed to the man before he went off to prepare himself for the next sets of tests that he was preparing for the other members of the Rookie 9. He wanted to get each of them done as soon as possible so that each member could then decide whether or not they really and truly wanted to make a try for the exams. He also had a lot of personal thinking to do if he was allowing his personal feelings to get as out of control as they had when these particular students were concerned. He was just glad that the Jonin had not humiliated him with that speech in the Hokage's office. "Think you were kind of hard on him, don't you?" Asuma asked curiously, as he and Kurenai appeared alongside of the masked ninja as the genjutsu that cloaked them disappeared. "Until he accepts it, he needs to hear it over and over." Kakashi returned to the other ninja. "The bond between him and Naruto is like that of brothers. He would not be the first overprotective family member that has had trouble allowing their family to go into dangerous situations." The others nodded their heads in acceptance. They would allow the silver-hair Jonin to deal with Iuka since he seemed the most interested in his Jonin. "I just wish I could be there to see how the others handled dealing with Iuka," Kurenai said. "It would be interesting," Asuma agreed. "But the Hokage ordered us to stay away from them for the week and let them make their own choices. That order happens to include this test." The Jonin then broke apart as they had other things to do. Without their teams, they were rushing around the village to perform other missions that had to be done to prepare the village for what was coming. Half of their Jonin teams were no longer available for at least 2 weeks thanks to the exams.
I'm glad you enjoyed that video/gameplay. Just remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, goodbye!